We just need a voice count of the members present. Rick Clark,
Present.
okay. Skip White, I can see you present. Gary Longley, present. And Adam Provost,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir, you're there. Over in the corner. Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you very much. The next order of business is the prior meeting minutes approval. I believe I mailed them out to everybody, or emailed them out to everybody. Is any,
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is a second by Gary Longley. All right, all those in favor? On these meetings, you need a voice. Everybody
Skip
has
to
to-
unmute.
right. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
I believe I made a motion to lay on the table our I don't know how you had it.
Oh, reorganization, correct.
Yes. And that
Yes.
didn't see that in the minutes.
Oh, okay. We'll add that and we'll amend it.
Thank you.
And I didn't add it to this agenda because we're in basically the same position we were in last month. And hopefully by next month, met with the mayor yesterday. Hopefully by next month, we'll have that straightened out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Full business, Public Safety Building Committee update by me, discussion fire station project funding. Been a lot of talk with the Public Safety Building Committee, and we've met with many of us met with City Council, and the discussion has basically centered around budget, the amount of money we have, why we need more money. Additionally, the conversation is about timing of everything. The council wants more information. The OPM, the mayor, and the designer have put together a sizable package to deliver to the city councilors to answer the several questions that they had or have about many facets of where we are, where we're going, and why we need more money. Additionally, they had questions about the temporary fire facility and the cost, and some of the conversation by city councilors lent itself to an initial lack of support, I think, for the funding without a lot more information. Additionally, some of them brought up that they felt that the fire station should just move forward with the temporary. And after they get into the temporary, and after the fire station's knocked down, and after the library is initiated in their construction, to come back to the council for additional funding and support for the permanent, which we reject outright. Leaving the fire station, hanging out in the middle of nowhere in a parking lot on Hope Street in a temporary facility with no end game is just totally unacceptable. The mayor agrees with that. There are members of my committee that agree with that. But the overriding interest at the moment is to build a library and get the fire department into a temporary facility and get that fire station knocked down, because they have a shovel in the ground date of April 21, 2021. They've been reluctant to go for an extension They are coming around to it. If we can give them a timeline, a short timeline of when we would fully be into a temporary, and then they would entertain going for an extension. So both the OPM and the designer and the fire chief and some members of the committee have been working very hard at coming up with some kind of timeline without a budget. We still do not have a budget for the project. So that makes it quite difficult. One, we do not have a site for the project that is currently being negotiated. And I know the mayor has been going back and forth with the representative for Masaccio family and the Main Street project. We have a meeting tomorrow. And the meeting, there's a posted executive session to talk about her efforts and where we're at with that. Additionally, the building committee has formed a subcommittee that deals specifically with the temporary piece. And they've been working pretty hard with both the chief, the OPM, and the designer to come up with information about that. So I'm assuming in their subcommittee report tomorrow they will bring us up to speed and where they're at with that. Additionally, Otis Wheeler mentioned, he's the chair of the Ways and Means in the meeting we had with City Council, that the mayor and the committee, building committee, come to them with a request for purchase outside of the $10 million. So that's some light if that should work out. But basically the bottom line is we still don't have a site, and we still don't have a budget. And so that's what's really creating the problems. Additionally, we really don't have the $1.7 to $2 million for the temporary if we take it out of the 10 million we have for the project. So cart's sort of in front of the horse, and it's been that way since the get-go, and it's been a problem.
Butch, can I ask the chief a question real quick?
Sure.
Chief, would you feel more comfortable if you were in an existing structure rather than a temporary structure, even though the apparatus may be outside?
So that's kind of a mute question right now from the standpoint that we put an RFP out months ago for temporary facilities to be in a facility or have land. We received no responses that were appropriate for that. So even if we said it was okay, unless it's city-owned property, we can't do it without a delay.
So we're back to looking for city-owned property?
No,
So
no.
the plan for the temporary, we're talking about temporary, not permanent.
Correct.
The plan for the temporary right now, the site that's been identified as a possible and most likely solution for the temporary is the Hope Street parking lot by the courthouse. It would take both levels of that parking lot, and that is the agreed upon that I'm comfortable with, and that is town-owned land. So that's what's being looked at right now.
So if, for example, Wilson's became available in terms of housing the headquarters and the personnel, and the parking lot would be available for the temporary housing of the apparatus, that would not be doable now?
They have not submitted to the RFQ. Therefore, it cannot be considered unless we submitted a second RFQ, gone through a month or whatever the time frame is for the RFQ to go through, and that's the only way it could be considered.
Right.
Wow.
They would have to write a proposal. They would have to, and then we would have to go through the process all over again.
right.
which it's been done twice now.
Place,
Okay.
right.
Well,
Um,
the
yeah, gotta move on.
interesting thing about Wilson's is the Greenfields market is asking for more time, given the COVID thing and everything being kind of up in the air. And I thought the consideration might be that they'd be willing for us to assume the cost of heating and maintenance of that building for a 2-year period in lieu of a lease, and that we would use that facility and the parking lot for the fire department. But if that can't be approached, then I guess we're done with that idea.
We would have to put out
Another RFP. Yeah.
We would have to put out an RFQ for it, and we would have to go through that process.
Okay.
Right. And so, actually, a large amount of work has been done already to be presented on the Hope and Prospect Street site for a temporary. And a lot of that information, I'm sure it will be tomorrow, but it's also going to be forwarded to City Council for their review. I think that is the site. Our issue after that point is money, the total amount of money for that project and a permanent project, which we're short on. And that's,
Has anybody suggested the Armory in conjunction with that lot?
yeah, that's been, I don't think,
Town owned
correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but I don't think we've missed a place in Greenfield, have we?
Okay.
We definitely would entertain looking at that if it was a possibility. I don't think it would be. And again, unless the city took ownership of it, it would have to go through an RFQ process.
Right. Yeah. So I think on the temporary side, the direction we're going in, I think that piece can come together pretty quickly. DPW has already done some work and looking at connections and stuff like that. Designer has looked at how to deal with the 2 different levels of those lots and deal with that. I think that is definitely going to be the spot. But we're really back to a budget for the project and space for the permanent project. And we're being crushed on a timeline to get our building down so they can move forward so they don't jeopardize their grant. So I think it's really important that we send a message to the mayor that, that we recommend that, she has in her hand and the building committee has in their hand a budget and a site location for a permanent fire station, because the fire station doesn't need a temporary fire station. We're not doing that for the fire station. We're doing that for the library project. And, the great fear is they're going to be left to hang out to dry in a temporary spot. And certainly it's not where I'm at, and nor have I ever been. And I'm sure, and I know the chief isn't, and I'm reasonably sure members of this committee are not there with leaving them hanging like that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, I agree. You can't do one without the other.
No.
Yeah, but their priorities are messed up. If we're putting all of this together so that we can be shovel ready for a library, and we're gonna let the fire station go sit in a parking lot, that makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
No, plus the cost. I mean, it's going to be 1.7
It's
million
ridiculous.
So if I can interject here, my concern isn't going into the temporary facility. My concern is going into a temporary facility when money's not appropriated for the permanent facility.
Right.
We knew for a long time that we would be going into a temporary facility, and I think they're working on mechanisms to try to come up with a cost outside of the borrowing for the additional $5 million. But we've known for a long time that the temporary was part of the deal. And as I said, I am not opposed to going to a temporary as long as the goal line for the permanent is set and there's funding for it. My fear is and I've said this at many public meetings, my fear is that we go into a temporary facility and no funding gets approved, or delayed funding gets approved for the permanent, which will ultimately cost money against the permanent structure if it's delayed, or we get stuck in a temporary, and I'm not willing to take that risk. With that said, there's a lot of efforts being taken right now that will get us into the temporary facility, but will also do it in a way where my concerns are met and the fire department's concerns are met, and we'll make it work. I believe that there is a path to make it work. It is tremendously challenging though.
Wonderful.
So I need to be clear. We're not opposed to going into the temporary facility, which I'm just not willing to take the risk of going to a temporary facility if there's no money appropriated for the permanent facility.
And that's right.
So what's the holdup on getting a budget for the temporary facility?
Well,
Not sure I understand the question.
yeah.
Well, how much we can't delineate how much it's going to cost to lease all the structures that are needed in order to have the temporary facility, so they can come up with a budget.
The estimate for the budget for the temporary facility is 1.7.
So that hasn't
1.7
changed.
million.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's just not acceptable to someone?
Well, if
don't
we have
have
to
it.
take it out of the 10 million
Or
and
the
reduce
15
the
million.
amount that we have for the permanent, and there's no additional funding for the permanent, they're going to be stuck there.
So basically what you're saying is the 1.7 was included in the 5 million that was asked for, but the 5 million is not forthcoming.
Well, we don't know that. We're working on that, but as of yet, we don't have it. Right.
Okay.
I like Bob says, I think it's going to be complicated. It's really going to be challenging. It's going to be a lot of wrangling, but I do think at the end of the day, we'll be there. But, I think we should make a statement about our concern that that's where we want to be. We want to be sure that we're going to be in a temporary and a permanent facility at the end of the line here. And not be left out to dry.
Are you looking for a recommendation from this commission to state that we've identified, along with the other committees and support, the Hope Street lot for the temporary location, and that the consideration needs to be made to fund $1.7 million as the first step, and that the commitment to that 1.7 should be made at a time when the permanent location is identified and acquired.
Funded.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, and funded. I mean, the whole project has to be funded. Half of it can't be funded, because that would leave us high and dry.
I have a question,
Go ahead, Adam.
and I know you've already covered this probably twice, but the 1.7 is going to come out of the budget for the entire long-term project?
At this point, that's the way it looks. Yes.
It just seems ridiculous.
There is a lot of work trying to see if there's a possibility or an alternative to that.
Right.
But as of right now, there is $10 million appropriated, and any work, whether it's temporary or permanent, has to come out of the $10 million.
So this is so tied to the library project. I know you guys are going to laugh, but why don't they reduce the library by 1.7 million? Reduce the grant. All they got to do is knock some square feet off the building, and we get the money for the temporary.
I believe that there's a solution that will present itself, and I don't think that we're at that point where that is going to be considered. I think there's other alternatives that will present themselves, including I am optimistic that our city council will approve the $5 million and we build a $15 million fire station, which will include the cost of acquisition of land.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling that comfortable.
I really don't have an option to that, Commissioner.
Well, no, I understand. I understand you don't.
Yeah,
Is the consternation on the 5 million is that puts us right up against the borrowing limit, correct? So that means that there's no other money available should something happen in the next year or two. Is that the bone of contention?
To go past the additional $5 million, I believe that is a fairly accurate statement. Yes.
right. Right.
I just want to be cognizant of. I appreciate the support that you commissioners are doing. I just don't want to get into a position where we're trying to pit one project against another. I believe that there's a solution, and I believe it's being worked on daily to find the solution.
Yeah, people are working hard.
I just want to say that a little bit. This whole process has been very frustrating, but I believe that there will be a solution because both projects are tied together, completely tied together.
Right. I mean, I think you have to remember we had no input whatsoever in the funding amount that was put into capital. No one ever came to us and talked to us about that, even though we'd been working on this project for 10 or 11 years. Really, no one spoke to the chief about how much money was needed for an OPM and a designer when that money was put in. You know, it is true, 20,000 square feet, $10 million, but there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, you got designer cost, OPM costs, you have land costs, you have land site prep that could be up to, you know, 250 to 275,000, depending on what needs to happen with a site that's purchased. And, you know, we were not involved at that process at all, even though we had been so involved for so long.
Well, we were involved in coming up with design for a public safety complex at 19.1 million. And you would have thought that we would have continued on once that design was conceptually accepted, but it got taken away from us. And I guess my feeling is this process might have been smoother because the basis of all the knowledge resided in our commission.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of where we're at and what's going on. Everybody is really working pretty hard. I mean, there are varying interests about what folks want to see and when they want to see it. But ultimately, I think in general terms, there is pretty great support for a new fire station. It's just the timeline. If we had a year and a half or 2 years to work on this, I'd be a no-brainer, I think. But the crunch here is a problem. And when you don't have a budget for the entire project, the permanent project at the end, it really does make you a little nervous in the beginning here. So I'd just like to try to support the mayor and the Public Safety Building Committee, you know, with our support for a full project, that's all, and full funding for it. Nothing against the library at all. In fact, I'd like to see a new library. But
I have one question. I actually have two questions, but the first question, can you take that now?
certainly.
I had a citizen asked me today, had anyone approached the subject of actually using the Hope Street parking lot as the staging area for the construction of the library?
Talked about that. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did talk with those folks about it, and they brought up that it was, well, they brought up a cost that seemed unrealistic, but they brought up a cost that said, well, it's the same either way. Either you spend the 1.7 for a temporary, or it's going to cost our project, the library project, because it's going to create delays and it's going to cost us money in the construction side. So yeah, we have definitely talked about them positioning just like they did with the the parking garage. They didn't position anything on site. Everything was off site. They brought everything in. And they didn't seem to have a problem doing it. So, and I don't see that it added any cost to the project. I mean, that was a little simpler project because everything was cast. But now we've talked about that quite a bit. I thought we beat that to death enough, and I think that's pretty much off the plate.
Okay, and my second question is, what should we expect to hear back from the building committee tomorrow?
Well, I think you'll see, I don't want to get out ahead of the agenda too much, but I think you'll see a pretty detailed report from the subcommittee on the temporary. I think you will see some information about maybe a little bit type of timeline from the OPM and the designer. I think you might see some rough schematics or drawings on a site, on the site, if we purchase that site, how that might look. I think you would hear some information about how the meetings went and the discussion has gone with city council folks. You won't hear anything about the negotiations because the mayor's going to go into a set for that. Talk about where she is with the negotiations. But there might be some movement there come out later on. I think there'll be a fair amount of information that comes out tomorrow.
So is there anything we can do tonight to help that whole situation?
Yeah, I think, if we support the mayor and the building committee to build a permanent fire station that includes the temporary and a funding schematic, I think we can be helpful by at least, weighing in, having our sort of say our recommendation to the mayor. That's what we do. We recommend what we feel is right to the mayor. That's all we can.
I guess I'm just questioning what should the wording be? I think Gary's kind of alluding to that too.
Yeah, I know. It's
So I guess I could formulate a motion.
sure.
I move that we recommend to the mayor that she move forward as quickly as possible with funding for a temporary facility on Hope Street and a permanent facility on Main and Coombs Avenue as soon as the negotiations are completed, up to an amount of $5 million. Additional, correct.
Okay. Your second on that? Was that Adam? Was that Adam that seconded?
No, it wasn't. I was just listening to see if there was going to be any discussion.
Yeah, there will after a second.
Sure, I'll second.
Okay. Now, is there discussion on the motion?
Do you think we should list a figure there or just leave that alone?
I just think an adequate budget for the permanent and the temporary, because we really don't know exactly what that would be.
Yeah, that's why I use
We
the
do
term.
know the maximum we could get, but we don't know what that would be.
And that's why I said up to, because if it falls
Yeah.
below that, that's fine.
Right. Okay.
Well, I just get concerned about locking yourself in for things when you start mentioning figures.
Right.
Yeah. My question, I mean, is this what we should be doing this evening? Should we be putting together a motion to support this evening, or is just just happening because of our conversation that we've been having, this update? Or is the goal tonight to try to put something together to show support? We all know we support it. We all know we
Right.
support moving forward with the best thing possible for both the police and fire, and it just, I guess, I don't know. I'm a little bit caught up. I appreciate how diplomatic the chief is being about the whole thing, and his support and his optimism about how this will move forward in both projects. And I get it. I understand that we're dealing with the entire, town. I just can't help but get tripped up on the fact that it feels like our priorities don't seem, I don't know. It seems backward. But
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents. So I guess that's why I'm here. So
What would you change, Adam?
no, I mean, I guess nothing in particular right off the top of my head. I just it bothers me that it just seems odd that we're pushing so hard to find something to do with the fire station because the library is in need of getting something done. To me, that just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
What's more important, something burning down or the library?
Yeah.
Well, I think part of what Butch is getting at is that, ever since the rollout with Mayor Martin on the public safety complex, I don't know, what was that, a year and a half ago? We've been off the table in regard to that whole process. And so I think what we're saying is, listen, since you haven't heard to us, this is what we're saying now.
And I think that's great, and I agree with you, Gary. And I think we should have a voice. We probably should have more of a voice. But
I agree.
I just and I know it's been difficult, and I know a lot has changed since we started this whole project. So much has changed. I get it. It just seems like I don't know. I'm just not really. I'm not super happy as to where we've come to this point. To me, I'm uncomfortable with it. So I will obviously support what is best for what we do as public safety, and I will stand together with all of you to make sure that it's positive and supported. I just question the direction some of the people in this town are going, and some of the priorities that we've gotten to at this point. So that's me on my soapbox, and we can move
Okay.
on.
All right. Yeah, I think amongst ourselves, we're public safety people. And of course, we do support public safety, and we know we each support public safety. But in the broader, we have a new mayor, and and we have more people that are dialed in than ever before because of the two projects. I think it's worthwhile that we certainly make a statement and some sort of recommendation or some reference to the mayor about how we feel about fire department and the permanent fire department, and make sure that we end up with a permanent fire department at the end of the day. That's sort of my rationale for why I think we should make some sort of statement. As Gary said, we've been off the radar for a while.
Well, it's been a rocky road, and hopefully it's about to get smoothed out.
Right.
Now, this is Rick. Are we really saying kind of what I'm hearing here, that we are encouraging the mayor to provide a path as and guidance to bring this to a good solution?
That's the way I'm reading it. Right. We're asking her to support a complete project.
Well, that's a good word, complete. I like that.
Because there's been discussion about a fragmented project.
Right.
Yeah, these two things need to move forward because one piece can't go without the
Not
other.
the other, correct.
If I was the chief, I would be somewhat apprehensive myself.
Gary, that's the part that bothers me. That's what bothers me.
Yeah, I know.
So do you want to just restate your motion?
I was afraid you were going to do that.
I just ask before you move on, which part bothers Commissioner Provost?
That the two are tied together. That to me bothers me. It's been tied together. I realized that from day one, and I haven't liked it from day one.
I should be easier without that.
So to restate the motion, our recommendation to the mayor is that she move forward with a temporary fire facility on Hope Street and a permanent facility at Coombs in Maine, pending acquisition of the property, and that both pieces be funded with the additional up to $5 million.
Okay. And there was a second on that.
Second.
Right.
Yeah, and any further discussion on that?
No.
Okay, and a voice vote. Rick?
Aye.
Yep. Aye, all right. Adam
Aye.
and Gary
Aye.
and me, aye. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the next piece of old business was BMS Franklin Med emergency room services. We do any more with that? I just filled out a survey that was sent to me by the FERCOG in conjunction with city planning about the future. What was it? The future readiness of the community. Do we have adequate services? How are our services stretched? All those kinds of things. And I wrote in there at length about the hospital emergency room services are challenged on an everyday basis. And when we have an event, whether it's a flood or a microburst or a tropical storm, the facility is just not able to handle it. So I sent that out today to those folks. And I think that really on a public safety side should have a broader discussion more than just us. I know the chief has been challenged. I know AMR has been challenged in bringing folks up there in emergency vehicles and having folks sitting there and wait when there are real emergencies, not somebody just going up there with something that can wait a little bit.
Butch, I'm going to suggest perhaps the best way to approach this is to simply let the fire service liaison, Rick and I, look into it and see if we can talk with the ER director.
Sure. That sounds great.
You've got enough on your plate.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Unless anybody's got anything else to say about that, we can move on to the next item. Okay, let's, Chief, are you prepared to talk about updates? Chief Haig?
Who wants to go last?
If
I know
I
he
could defer
does.
to the end, it'd be great.
Yep, go right ahead.
I'm
Well-
gonna try to get onto my computer. I'm on my phone at the moment, so I'm gonna try to
Oh, okay.
get onto that.
All right.
So
Okay,
if you wanna put me
let's go
last,
with,
that'll be fine.
let's move them out of order and we'll take fire department updates. Chief Strand?
Yeah, so we still have a couple of firefighters that are still out on leave. We've received 2 of them have returned. 2 of them are still out, so our overtime has still been getting hit because of that. I have put together a reduction plan based off of a request from our finance director on how much expected budget reductions we are expecting this year. And so that plan has been submitted. I don't have the figures in front of me of where I took it, but we had to reduce our budget by 60,000. Was what I was requested to submit for. So I have done that. It includes area and training overtime, regular overtime, and other categories. Some of the categories, the smaller categories, will be able to backfill with the ambulance revenue, but it's still the operating budget has been reduced. So we're challenged by that, but we will get through it. Right now, there's no projected layoffs or reduction in force at all. We may have to look at overtime a little bit, but we'll maintain the services of what we have with those reductions. However, my overtime budget is not being helped with the amount of firefighters that I have out. So that's a challenge, but we're working on it. Tonight, I forwarded a recommendation to make Alex Cooley permanent captain. And I will be asking the commission to confirm that recommendation to send to the mayor's office. And it's actually a two-part request. The first part is that you confirm my recommendation going forward. The second is that you write a letter of recommendation that says that Alex should be promoted based off of your last promotional procedure that you did. He ranked number 1. He is the only one on the list. He passed and was successful in his interview process. And unless you feel differently, I don't believe we need to go through the whole process again, considering that you just did it. And Commissioner Hawkins has up the overall grading scores that how he came out. And so it would be my pleasure. And we are financially stable to be able to do that and promote Alex to permanent captain. And it would be he's doing a great job, and it would just be a recognition of the job that he's doing. So other than that, the ambulance is still running strong. We are manning 2 ambulances now. We do that through recall. So when the first ambulance goes out the door, and they're transporting, if they fall below 3 members on a shift, they backfill to fill the second ambulance. Alex Cooley, Captain Cooley, fills it during the day, so that reduces the overtime, but that has been successful for us, and we are oftentimes running oftentimes running 2 ambulances. And so it's been calling in turners or other mutual aid has been reduced significantly by doing that. And we are doing it through FEMA money for the CARES Act to make sure that we have a second ambulance to transport sick people from the COVID emergency, which we still are seeing COVID cases or suspected COVID cases when we're picking up patients. So.
And how's call volume then?
Shot right up. Once everything starts opening up, our call volume has gone way up. We have seen a slight increase in the medical runs that we contribute to people waiting for medical care, because they were afraid to go to the hospital during the emergency. And so I don't have the raw data or the figures that I'm doing a big assumption on that. But, from what I've been told from the guys, some of the stuff people haven't necessarily been waiting or have been waiting and not necessarily getting the treatment when they probably should have. So, which we've all predicted.
Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, I don't think we have anybody. Sorry, Commissioner. I don't think we have anybody from AMR today, but I will tell you that there was a small little photo op. I apologize. The message got crossed and it didn't get to you folks to be a part of it, but you were recognized in the photo op. AMR has shown their commitment to the city of Greenfield by purchasing 2 brand new rigs. They went in service today. And they rebranded the sides of the rig to say, proud, I think it says proudly serving the city of Greenfield. So they are committed to the city of Greenfield. They are challenged, like the Commissioner Hawkins said, about the transports, and they are working diligently with the hospital to try to address those. But they are committed to the service, EMS service for the city.
Your working
all I have.
relationship, your working relationship's been good with them?
It has been very good. We've had some bumps in the roads. There's been some challenges, but they've been responsive, and we work them out as they come about.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
Chief, you closed the senior center in terms of the COVID response. How's that been?
So we still have 2 health contractors that have been brought in. One is a contact tracer. The other one is a nurse that does contact tracing. And between the 2 of them, I think we would be in different scenario than we are. They are super aggressive about making sure that they contact people that have tested positive, and working with family and working with folks. Sometimes it's not a pleasant conversation for them. They often are given a hard time about it, but they are very aggressive about it. And I believe it's their effort to that keeps the numbers down. So with that work, there's really not an overreaching reason for the EOC to stay open. I will tell you that the command staff, we are still under a state of emergency, and the command staff at the EOC meets weekly, where we highlight concerns within the communities and strategize on protection methods and things of that nature. And so although you don't see it, and although it's not manned, it is still, the command part of it is still active and making decisions regularly for the emergency.
So, number one, I want to commend you, Chief. I told you this to your face, but I'm going to say it again. How you laid out that senior center and setting up the facility, I thought was brilliant. And I'm sure that it probably worked extremely well because of your input and how it was set up. And then my last point is, can you describe for me how the community spread has been since you closed that facility?
I'd be happy to. First of all, thank you very much for the kind words. I will tell you that it was a team effort. It's been a pleasure being co-incident commanders, if you will, with Chief Haig. We really have been able to, especially when the EOC was open, to deal with some very difficult scenarios, but it was done together as a team. Christy Moore from the rec department, Alex from the fire department, Gene from IT, the health folks, the mayor's office. It was really a good collaborative and continues to be so. I'm awfully proud of the crew that we put together. So I appreciate the thank you, the acknowledgement to me, but it's really the crew that deserves the acknowledgement. As far as numbers go, we see pretty steady numbers in regards to low numbers, but active numbers, if that makes sense. We're not seeing big spikes. We're not seeing, large increases, but we see steady work, if that makes sense. A case pops up here. Some of the cases, a singular case, involves 75 people, from one person. That they had to trace and make sure that, it didn't spread beyond that. And so they work very, very closely with the schools. They're developing plans with the schools in case that there's an exposure in the school, and how they can quickly and aggressively get on top of it and isolate it. And so, again, the numbers, a case here or here or there every couple of days is not uncommon.
Okay, thank you. Chief Haig, thank you for your input in setting that up as well.
Okay. Anything else for the chief?
I just have one question, Mr. Chairman. What happened as a result of resolution of the man that we had at the last meeting with those fires on Deerfield Street?
Great question. So we went back and we pulled the records. I spoke with him and told him that, explained to him that, we have 4 different shifts, and when they respond, it could be 4 different shifts that deal with the same individuals, but there's not a real good database that unless somebody knows that there's an ongoing problem, how to let fire prevention or myself know that we have an ongoing issue. So we've been able to identify this particular issue, and I will tell you that since the last meeting, we did have another problem, and the homeowner that's in question was fined was given a warning and was fined for the activity, and was told to cease and desist, and we will continue to be on top of it. And we have a plan of action that's been established to specifically address when we have multiple infractions like this that impacts the neighbors.
Yes, and I might add that it's extremely important, especially now that we're into this really dry spell too, so
Yep.
we could have more problems.
Yep. It is on our radar. We are watching it very closely, and we are making the appropriate correction actions as needed.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to do a motion now for Captain Cooley?
Yeah, the next item on the list would be, recommendation for motion to Captain Alex Cooley. We have gone through the process with him. He's an excellent candidate for the position. He's working well, as a provisional captain right now, and he's a real asset to the chief during the daytime. And I can't think of a better promotion to make than Alex Cooley myself. He's gone all through the process several times, and he's been at the top pretty much all the time. Great person to work with and for.
Well, I concur with you, and as you know, you and I have worked with him through SALT and Triad activities, and the man has done very well with his work with that, and he's been just a good member of the department and emphasized his leadership and follow through, and certainly very courteous to all. So I would move that we concur with the chief's wishes that Captain Cooley be promoted to a permanent captain as soon as possible.
Second.
Okay, Adam, second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. Rick Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Skip White? Raise your. Skip votes aye. Adam Provost?
Aye.
And Rick and Gary Longley?
Aye.
Aye, and I vote aye. It's unanimous. Congratulations, Chief, on your new appointment. I know the mayor will support it as soon as we send the recommendation over. Thank you very much. I think that was an important thing to get done, given the situation we're in statewide.
Yeah, I just want to highlight what you all said. Captain Cooley is an invaluable member of the department, and personally, he has helped me out tremendously. He's a true asset to the department. I do want to highlight that this does come at no cost. The captain's rate is the captain's rate, whether you're permanent or whether you're in the provisional position. So it does not impact the budget. And I have projected forward that the budget will support this position going forward. So thank you very much, everyone, for confirming that.
And it also does not create a vacancy.
That's correct.
Thanks very much. So EMS, AMR, I send the way the system works. I send the agenda and the request for the meeting over to the mayor's office. They initiate the WebEx and the invites, and I send a list of folks to invite. I try to include everybody. So I'm not always sure if they get it or they don't, because they're usually pretty responsive and they usually will jump on. So I'll double down and make sure that they are getting the invite here in the future. If they're not present. I know you gave us an update, Chief, on them a little bit, which is great. But I think we're ready for the police department updates. Chief
Yep,
Haig?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to multitask like everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah, so for updates for me, it's not a whole lot. We've got the 3 new hires starting on Monday. We hired 3 full-time academy trained folks that will be starting with us. 2 are coming from the Northampton Police Department with some experience, and 1 from the Palmer Police Department with a little bit with academy experience and not too long on the street. But that's a pretty good thing for us, and we were able to do it outside of the civil service process under the new accepted new hire process. So that's pretty good. As far as budget is concerned for the PD, right now, I mean, we had the cuts in the beginning. I haven't received where any additional will be as of yet. Dispatch, I've had to remove about $50,000 out of dispatch. So that's kind of where I'm at with those 2. We've got new cruisers that have just arrived. We're waiting on a couple more. We did also receive the signboard, which if we had a meeting at the station today, we probably could have showed everybody that. So we do have the speed trailer, a new speed trailer now that we'll be putting out amongst the community as soon as we get it registered and taken care of. Outside of that, I don't have a whole lot of updates. Our overtime has been getting hit pretty solid. We've got 2 people out on IOD right now, and unsure when either one will be returning to full duty status. But we will hope for the best on that one. We've had the 3 retirements just in the last month and a half that have left us a little bit short. We have 2 in the academy right now. So we are definitely running a little shorter than we would like, but we are getting by at this point. I can take any questions for you.
Just a couple. When do the new hires start?
They start Monday, the 28th.
They start Monday. And does that bring you up to your full complement?
That will be the 34 full-time positions that were allotted. Yes. So
I wonder if you couldn't just send an email to the commissioners of who the folks are and where they come from, and just a little bit about their background. So
yeah, I know the lieutenant had been working up bios for them. So
perfect.
Bios for everybody, and updated bios for everybody in the department. So we will get that out for sure. So
Are those leases too? Also 3-year leases?
They are 3-year leases, lease to own, just like we did the last time. Yep, that's where we're at.
New Explorers?
Yep, all hybrids.
Nice.
So
okay, that's all the questions.
I'm sorry?
That's all the questions I have for the chief. Anybody else have a question for the chief? Call volume. How's your call volume been?
We're still probably a little bit down. I mean, the emergency calls are still there. The kind of general calls, we're still obviously in COVID mode, so we got to kind of take those on a case by case sometimes. But emergency calls are still up. We've had some really busy shifts as of late. So those aren't going away. So,
Okay. I see Deputy Williams is on. You have anything you would like to add, Deputy?
No, I don't think so. Just listening.
I was just making sure you didn't fall asleep.
That's a distinct possibility, so thank you.
Okay, I think we're down to other business. Does any folks have any other business that they'd like to bring up? Seeing none. Public comment. Is any folks out there in the public that would like to speak to us? Make a comment? Seeing none. Executive session, we do not need one. The next meeting will be October 28th at, I'll try for the 5 o'clock time, because you have to get a slot for this. And other than that, Adam's favorite time of the day.
I have one quick question. What is happening Halloween now? Can somebody just update us on that?
Oh, okay. I'm sure the chief can. Chief Haig.
I honestly can't. I mean, as far as I know, it's Halloween is happening. So I think we'll probably have a few more guidelines that'll come out as we get a little bit closer. But as of right now, I believe the intention is for Halloween to go on in some capacity.
I'll chime in there. The recreation department is setting up an event for like a drive-through trick-or-treating at Highland Pond. So that announcement just went out. I talked to Christy Moore probably about 3 weeks ago or so. She wanted my input on how that would work and everything and their plan. So I know the announcement's out because I've seen flyers about it. So I believe it's like a 2-hour period, and they'll have people all set up along. I think that road is technically Parkway. The road that goes through the gates and by the pond.
Right. Okay. All right. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Before you adjourn, I do have one last item I forgot to bring up during my meeting, if it's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So we are in the process of merging to a new radio system within the county. It's taking a fast track. With that is going to be some budgetary issues. Most of the radios will be provided, a portion of it will be provided at cost, no cost to us, but the upgrades, there will be a charge. We're going to be working on a budget, and we will be coming back within a couple months for support the financial request if needed going forward to transition us to the 800 system. And so I just want to put it on everybody's radar that is coming down the pike. So, and Deputy Williams sits on the oversight board and represents Greenfield very well on that. So I appreciate him doing all the work, making sure Greenfield's taken care of.
What's the projected startup date? You get the money.
We have to have the radios purchased by June of next year. So it will definitely fall into this fiscal year.
All right.
And I do not have money budgeted for it.
Okay, more to come. Yay. Motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye.